I get it, you're staring at a wall of specs and wondering if you're about to throw a chunk of your budget into a TV that will end up collecting dust. You don't want to waste money on a screen that looks great in the showroom but falls flat in your living room, and you're trying to figure out whether this 98-inch monster is actually worth the space it will take up. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the size alone makes this a decision you can't take lightly. A 98-inch diagonal screen is basically a small cinema, and that changes everything about how you set it up. If you have a dedicated media room, a high ceiling space, or at least a wall that can accommodate a TV that wide, the TCL QM85 can become the centerpiece of movie nights and game sessions. If you're living in a typical apartment or a bedroom where a 55-inch TV already dominates the wall, this model will feel like you're trying to watch a billboard from a distance. That's the first hidden trade-off: you need the real estate to make the picture look natural. Now, let's talk about what actually makes this screen stand out beyond the headlined 98-inch QLED. The QM85 uses a QD Mini LED backlight with up to 5,000 local dimming zones and a peak brightness that can hit the 5000 nit mark. In practical terms, that means bright rooms are no longer a problem. I've seen a few people struggle with glare on bright days, but the sheer number of dimming zones lets the TV dim down specific areas while keeping the rest luminous enough to punch through sunlight. If you have large windows or a room with lots of ambient light, you'll notice the picture staying vivid without washing out. Dolby Vision IQ HDR and Dolby Atmos add another layer of realism, but they only shine when you have content that supports them. Think Netflix originals, Disney Plus releases, or a 4K Blu-ray player that can output Dolby Vision. In those moments, the colors pop with that quantum dot vibrancy that TCL advertises, and the soundstage feels more immersive, especially if you pair the TV with a decent soundbar or a surround system. The built-in speakers are decent for casual viewing, but don't expect them to replace a dedicated audio setup if you're after theater-grade sound. Gaming is another arena where this TV tries to make a name for itself. The game Accelerator can push the refresh rate up to 240 Hz, and the panel itself runs at 120 Hz native with a variable refresh rate that tops out at 144 Hz. For most console gamers, whether you're on a PS5, Xbox Series X, or a high-end PC, the combination of low input lag and that high refresh ceiling means smoother motion and less tearing, particularly in fast-paced shooters or racing games. The real-world test is whether you can actually see the difference in a living room setup. Most users I've spoken to notice a cleaner image during rapid camera pans, though the improvement is subtle unless you're a competitive gamer. The smart side of the QM85 runs on Google TV, which is a plus if you already use Google services or like the flexibility of an app store that feels more open than some other platforms. The voice remote integrates Alexa as well, so you can ask for the weather, control compatible smart lights, or fire up your favorite streaming app without hunting for the remote. In day-to-day use, that means fewer buttons to remember and a smoother transition between watching a movie, scrolling through YouTube, or switching to a live sports feed. The downside? Google TV can be a bit slower to load when you first boot it, and the occasional app not responding message shows up if you have a lot of background tabs open. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to be aware of if you expect a razor-thin, instant experience. One practical concern that often gets lost in the hype is power consumption. A screen this large, especially with a backlight capable of 5000 nits, can draw a noticeable amount of electricity. If you're the type to leave the TV on for long binge-watch sessions, expect a higher electricity bill compared to a 55-inch LED set. The TV does have an eco mode that dims the backlight when ambient light is low, which can help keep the draw down, but the sheer size means you'll still be using more power than a smaller unit. Another subtle trade-off is the weight and mounting. The QM85 is a hefty piece of hardware. The stand is sturdy enough for a floor placement, but if you want a flush mount look, you'll need a wall that can handle the load and a mount rated for at least 150 kilograms. That adds to the installation cost, especially if you're not comfortable handling a 98-inch panel yourself. It's not a DIY nightmare, but it's a step up from hanging a 55-inch TV. So who should actually walk away with this TV? If you have a spacious home theater, enjoy watching HDR movies in a bright room, and maybe dabble in